Hi, everybody. I am so sorry that I didn't get a video out last night about day 2 of the Modern Homesteading Conference, but honestly, at the end of the day, we were so tired. We were so tired. Mm-hmm. And we haven't even talked about, we went to almost all different talks yesterday, and we haven't even told each other what we heard about yet. So we're going to do it right now with you guys instead of doing it twice. Because last night we got done and we honestly just didn't talk about it at all. We went back to our campsite and we ate dinner and we just chilled, and it was a wonderful 2 days. It was amazing.
It was a lot of information, but it was so fun.
It was so fun, but it was exhausting. Like spending all day out there learning, walking around. Like, it was definitely the fire hose effect. And on top of that, for me, I was volunteering for some of the shifts at the conference. So the end of the day was really busy and hard work for me because I was on a teardown crew, and we went through and we put away everything at that conference. Thousands of chairs and hundreds of tables and tents and all kinds of things. So that was really exhausting too.
Oh, yeah.
But I am super excited to hear about everything that you learned about, and I feel like I got some really good stuff too, so I'm really excited to share it. I really want to do this now though, because I can already feel it starting to leave my brain.
Yep.
But that's the reason I take a lot of notes. So, alright, so what did you see first in the morning?
The first thing I saw was finding your aim and just all the methods of hunting with the bow and arrow. And mainly with the bow and arrow, and, you know, the good options for rifles. Primarily going over bow and arrows because we learned yesterday that, or the day before yesterday, that, you know, when you use a rifle or a bullet, it can usually lead to more meat loss because deer and game meat tends to act more like water on impact than a solid. So if you were to drop a giant rock into a pool, it just kind of hits the water and splashes everywhere. So it kind of has the same effect with meat. Whereas if you were to do it with a bow and arrow, it's more like a little pebble and you're dropping it straight in.
Well, I'm sure, like, the edges of an arrow are way different than the edges of a bullet. Like, the way that it enters the meat is just, it's like a diver into that water versus someone who just cannonballs.
Yep. But as a result, sometimes you can just wound the animal instead of just killing the animal. So she went over, we didn't really go over too much about where to shoot them. She just said, take your hunter safety course, and you need to do these things so that way you really learn the ins and outs and the whys and the etiquette of hunting, because there are some areas where, you know, you have to make sure that you're not going to accidentally take someone else's kill, or you're not going to shoot somebody, how to stay visible. And also that deer cannot see colors like bright pink, like pink or orange. So that's something that I didn't know that at all. I thought we always had to just
be in camo,
be super camouflaged, but apparently she went over some things where, you know, it can hide your outline better if you're in checkered or flannel for some reason. I don't know the why. I also learned do not wear blue. They can see blue. It stands out to us like neon stands. It stands out to them like neon stands out to us. So if you wear the safety like neon orange hunter's gear so that other hunters can see you, the deer still can't. And you're good. Yeah, she was talking about, she just went over a lot of stories of how she stalks deer on the ground instead of just staying in a tree the whole time, and, you know, how to do that effectively. And essentially it requires a lot more patience and time stalking the deer and getting close to the deer, but you feel a lot more like a hunter, like a part of the process. You're not just waiting for something to walk by in the distance and you just lift up, aim and shoot, which
I know it has nothing to do with hunting, but I've been obsessed with archery ever since I was a little girl and read the Chronicles of Narnia, and Susan was just the most amazing character.
Forget Katniss Everdeen.
Oh, yeah. Susan, the original archeress, Susan.
Oh my gosh.
Pevensey. Susan Pevensey.
So yeah, she gave me a lot of resources for new hunters like me to where we could contact people, and she gave me the link to a website called the Compton Traditional Bow Hunting Organization, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a group of people that get together, they educate people on the traditional methods of bow hunting, best ways to go about things, and she even goes as far as to like make her own blades and arrows and stuff. She's a blacksmith, so she likes to.
So cool.
She's definitely an overachiever in that sense.
A little bit farther than we're able to go right now.
Yes.
Is that link something that we can share on my page for other people to access?
Oh, definitely.
Cool. I will put that link out for you guys to see too.
Right now, for women only, if you sign up to become a member, you are automatically signed up to win a custom bow.
That's cool.
Which is really cool. So, of course, I signed up.
So the way that works is if you go and pay for the membership and sign up for it, when you are doing that process, it has an option where you pick if you are male or female, and if you are a woman, then you get automatically entered into this drawing for the giveaway. So it's really cool.
It's really cool. It's not really advertised, so it's really cool when you go to conferences like this, you kind of get the scoop on things that are kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
So...
And the name of the speaker who runs this organization is Melody
Hague.
Hague or Hagee. I'm not sure how you say it.
Her handle in her business is Renaissance Woman.
Yeah.
She's based in Minnesota. So, yeah.
She was awesome. I got a little of her talk yesterday. And yeah, I'm so glad you got to go to the other one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really gives you an appreciation for hunting because you have more respect for the animal when you put in more effort to hunt the animal and more effort into the weapons that you use, and yeah.
Well, it's the same thing as anything. The more effort you put into something, the more part of the process you are, the more valuable it is to you.
The more rewarding that it is, and the better it is for the environment and the species as a whole. Yeah, it was just really, really awesome.
That's so cool. Okay, so while she was learning about hunting, I went over to one of the big outdoor tents and listened to Sean and Beth Daughtery from Homesteaders of America. They were presenting on... they had a couple of different titles that they went back and forth between for the same talk, but it was basically being frugal and how to actually build a homestead on a limited budget, which is the case for most of us. We don't have a lot to work with. We're not millionaires moving to the country. Like we're like just people trying to get started, and everything costs money. And so their whole talk was ways to stop spending money and still build the infrastructure of your homestead, which was so useful. And the first thing that stood out to me though was, so background, I already follow Homesteaders of America. These guys are fantastic. So it was really cool to meet them and talk with them in person. And I got a photo with them, which I already posted up, which was really fun. But there's a bunch of these people that I follow or have followed for a long time that I was totally unaware that they are Christians and believers, that that is a super strong part of their lives, their businesses, and everything, that just was openly shared and part of this conference. And Sean and Beth Daughtery were one of those couples where, like, that was just a part of what they do. And for those of you who don't believe the same way, they weren't forcing it on anyone. They were just presenting themselves authentically. This is who we are. This is what's important to us, and how we view the world through that lens. And it was just from the first few seconds, it was obvious. So it was really cool. So I will not go into the whole thing and read all of my notes, but I'm going to use it for reference here. They were also just really funny. They have a great relationship with each other. It was really funny. They would joke back and forth, and Sean would get himself in a little trouble with Beth fairly often. And it was great.
That's great.
Sean, at one point he told a joke. He's like, he was talking about how there are different types of people in relationships and in these marriages, and he said that the smart one has to be in charge of the spending, like, right? So he's trying to be like practical, okay? He's trying to say like the one who is like practical and intelligent about money has to be in charge of that so that you don't overspend, right? But when he said that, she looks at him, hand on hip, she's like, well, which one am I, Sean? And he's answered for me, and he thinks, he's like, you're the one that I love. They have a great relationship. Right. And she clarifies that they're both cheapskates. Like, they're both really good with money, and it was not a personal attack at all. But it was they had little things like that throughout the whole talk. It was wonderful. Just a very real relationship. So, one of the things that Beth talked about was that all life is sunlight. Mm-hmm. Like, everything alive on this planet relies on life from the sun. Because for air and food. Mm-hmm. Because every molecule of air that we breathe is produced by a plant that converted carbon dioxide to oxygen by filtering sunlight. And vice versa. Everything we eat on this planet, plant or animal that has eaten plant, or has eaten animal that has eaten plant, same thing. Produced via sunlight. Everything depends on sunlight for life on this planet. So, as homesteaders, we have to figure out how to optimize and maximize how we're using the sun to feed us. And she even got into specifics of like, almost some percentages and fractions of like how much of your land is actually being effectively used to use sunlight to create food for you. It was super cool. And then, so they have a lot of things going on, but they're primarily cattle farmers. And cattle, along with goats and sheep and some others, are ruminants, which basically means animals with split hooves that eat grass. And ruminants are special because they have like 4-chambered stomachs that process food differently. And they are it's a very small animal group, and they are the only animals that are able to eat the way that they do and eat the things that they eat. Like, they are an essential part of our ecosystem. So having farmers, homesteaders, ranchers that have animals that are ruminants to eat down grasslands and to sorry, I'm not talking very well right now. They're super important to maintain the ecological integrity of our lands and to keep them producing at high levels, because if those animals aren't coming in eating, like, things get overgrown or they die out, kind of like hunting actually helps with conservation of animal life. Ruminants eating down certain grasslands and the areas that we have on a lot of our homesteads keeps the earth and the soil and the plant life and the whole system alive. So we need them. So they talked about feeding, because that's where a lot of our costs go with the animals. It's like, yeah, it's great we have them. Maybe we even traded for animals, like I have for a lot of mine. But then the cost comes in where you have to keep feeding them. And they, like me, are like natural based, like no grains, no store-bought feeds for the ruminants. Like, it is grass-based, but you still have to, in theory, plant the fields, right, with stuff that they can eat and care for it and things like that. They're like, no, stop spending money on that. Just let the system that's already there work for you. Whatever's growing there already works. You don't have to replace it with anything. Now, if you have dead land and you need to get it started growing again, that's one thing. But if you're moving to an area with that already has an ecosystem, let the ecosystem work for you. Don't try to replace it with something else. It's already growing there. It's going to keep growing there. Graze your animals on what you have. Don't try to replace it with anything. Stop pouring money into that bit, and stop buying grains for, like, the sheep, the goats, the cattle. They don't need them. People say they do. They do not. Farmers for generations, for hundreds of years, have been not feeding grains to animals and having a great product. Like, we don't have to do that.
They're eating life.
Like, Purina didn't exist. Like, what did people feed their animals before that? They didn't all have massive corn farms and produce silage and feed that to their animals. Like, open range is good for them. We don't need to add. And now there's different things at different times of the year, like supplementing for maybe areas that are snowed over and stuff. That's a whole different thing. But they're like, let the ecosystem work for you. Stop pouring money into it. And the next thing that we pour our money into is the infrastructure of the homestead. Building things, adding things, sheds, barns, houses, water, all those things. And they were bringing it to basics for people who like are just moving onto their homesteads, like where to start. That's where we want to start spending our money. It's like, there's nothing here. We need all these things. Let's pour money into it. They said, stop. When you first move to a piece of land, you don't even know exactly what you need because you don't know what the land is going to do for you. You don't know what areas you're going to spend your most time in. Like, you don't even know where to put water because you don't know where you're going to be the most to need it and things. Like, they said, hang on and don't put any money into infrastructure right off the bat. Wait, like, get bare minimum basics, like get a bunch of hoses for your water, like take it wherever you need. Don't install anything. Don't build huge barns that you don't know if that's even where you're going to finally want a barn to be. That might be inconvenient for you. Like, just let the land work for you. Make sure everyone has the basics of what they need. You might struggle for the first year, but after that year, you're going to know where things should be and what you actually need versus what you think you need at the beginning. And they were talking about not paying for land that has improvements that other people have made that aren't actually improvements for you. Don't pay for someone else's infrastructure. It's like, unless you're certain that's going to work for you, don't pay extra for it. Like, it's someone else's improvements. Like, it's great that was an improvement for them. Probably not for you. Don't pay for that. And they talked about fencing because we've all got animals. Like, we need fences, right? They're like basics. Perimeter fencing is there, she said, so you can sleep at night, so that the animals don't wander off forever and you lose them. Interior fencing, paddocks, individual pens, things like that are not a necessity. They're not, and you don't even know exactly where you want them right off. So make sure you've got your perimeter fencing that will keep your animals from disappearing on you. And after that, wait. See what you can get away with bare minimum. Like, find out what you can use for containment that is already there. Things like that. Like, we're all tempted, like, to go after what we think we need at the beginning and just start pouring into it, and then it's like, oh, we didn't really need that, and we try to change to something else later, and then we spent double. And like, so they're all about wait, see, let the land work for you. Yeah, they said, do everything minimally, don't overthink. Like, that is the takeaway. You know, they talked about, like, buying land that nobody else wants. Like, every piece of land has the ability to be farmland. Just, you know, don't look for the picture perfect, already maintained, like, already set up farm. Like, grab the pieces. You're never gonna find it. They're like, barter for it. Trade land, like, open grazing, unimproved land is actually super cheap to rent. Like, really cheap. It varies from area to area, but she was saying on average, it's approximately $15 per acre per year to rent that land. That's it. So, like, you know, if you abut neighbors with extra land that you don't want to buy it, you can rent it. Like, you can do there's so many options. And there was one other thing that I'll say from them. I'm trying to find where it was. Oh, right. Yep. So they talked about the animals that you bring on too, and some of this stuff is really just common sense, but somehow it hits different when someone else teaches it to you. Don't bring any animals onto your farm until you have the food to feed them on your farm. And they didn't mean have the ability to go buy the food.
Have it on your farm.
Have it provided on your farm. And for a lot of grazing animals, that just means like the land to graze them, but there's other things, like if you just get the food first, then the animals, and then you have a self-sustaining system.
Yeah.
Which I'm a little backwards right now, but based on other talks I heard yesterday, I am actually really close to changing that. So that's really good. Not being wasteful, using like every part of the animal to feed your other animals, like just, they talked about soil fertility. They talked about how to make sure you're gardening, and this is all about how to spend the least amount of money and like do it as frugally as possible and keep it propagating and sustaining itself, so that you are not pouring money into your homestead, but your homestead is actually providing for you instead of the other way around. I wrote down this quote that they said, God created a world that is wonderful. He created a garden that works. And if we just follow the natural pattern of that, we will be way better off than if we're trying to change it.
Yeah, that kind of ties into what we learned from Animal Trades in her second talk.
Yeah.
Nature hates being naked. That was one of the things.
Yeah, nature hates being naked. I liked that.
Yeah, and like you put any sort of concrete or something anywhere, stuff is just going to grow over it. Mother Nature will try and find a way to like cover it up so that the bugs and all the other living things have stuff to move through and walk on. And
Which is the next talk that we went to, and we went to this one together, so we can both talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll let you start. I've been talking for a while.
Oh, my gosh.
You can look at my notes, too.
Your notes are probably way better than mine. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. You're not familiar with what I wrote, though, so I don't know if that'll be helpful.
I don't even know. You might have to.
Here, I'll talk for a second while you look at it.
Yeah.
So where we are right now, I'll take a little break. We are in the car we're going to be on our way back home, driving for the rest of the day. I hope there's not too much background noise. We've got the fan running in the car. Actually, I might put this window down now it's not raining. Oh, that's kind of loud. Never mind. We were gonna do a video at the campsite this morning, but it started raining and didn't really feel like doing that. So we're sitting in the car. If you've heard whining, the dogs are in the back of the car and kind of mad that they can't see us through all of this stuff right now.
Yeah.
And as soon as we get done with this video, we're gonna hit the road and head home back from Coeur d'Alene to Middleton. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yes. Right now we're sitting in the car, ready, but chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're taking it easy.
Touching base. Yep.
Really, we're leaving about the same time that we did yesterday.
Yeah.
On the way here. After all that.
Pretty much. It'll be fine, though. Be good.
Nice, relaxing day.
Yeah.
We've got nowhere to be.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of what Annabelle Trades mainly just talked about is just all the companion plants that you can plant together and how nature really does just have its own natural, like, weeds that are great for, repelling bugs that you don't want.
Yeah.
And just how literally to use nature to your advantage and just pair plants together. And
she talked about like how like some bug life we really want. We need it to make our soil healthy.
Yes, all the pesticides and crap that people put, it doesn't just go on the plants, it goes into the soil. And when you don't have bugs in the soil, you don't have living soil that has nutrients. You kill your soil, you kill your plants, which, plays into a little bit more about the billionaire talk and how people are putting their money in all these organizations now instead of homesteading.
That was a talk she went to later.
Yeah, and it really is true. Just, everything's been so industrialized now to where they're completely removing human interaction from it.
Ignore that. The phone fell down.
Yeah. And just things like that, how they created all these pesticides and all these things that are supposed to keep bugs off of the plants. But bugs are a part of nature. They feed the plants. And
And some bugs are harmful to our gardens, like when we don't want them around. But then we use the right...
When you eliminate all bugs...
Yeah.
What's the point?
Then
you have to get artificial methods of feeding your plants, and it just turns into a whole thing of spending money on this and spending money on that.
Yeah.
No.
We want soil that's alive, that sustains itself, that puts nutrients back, plants that put nutrients back in the soil so that you aren't having to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, which is like what I've been working on, permaculturing. Like, and I actually was not aware of this, and it makes so much sense. She told us that permaculture, the word, comes from permanent agriculture. That's what it actually means, permanent agriculture. I'm like, oh, that's why we call it permaculture.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm working on in my garden right now, but I feel like I got so many tools at this conference for how to really make that happen.
It's like just streamline everything.
Yep. And Ann Briggs with Ann of All Trades at this talk, like, she got into the science of it and like how to work with the soil and the plants and really like how to revive an area that's dead.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. It can take up to 5 years to get the soil, but that's what, it plays into the talk that you went to, where sometimes even if the land that's undeveloped, whatever, can be some of the best land, because all it needs is just a little love. You are more worthwhile putting effort and energy into creating healthy soil in 5 years' time, 3 to 5 years' time, than you are finding land that's already ready to go. Because the odds are you're not going to find something that's absolutely perfect. You have to create what you want. And
yeah. I liked so the first thing that she started her talk with was talking about how nature heals itself, or heals the soil on its own, like the process that it goes through if it's unhelped or unhindered by humans. And how there are different, it's naturally about a 3-year process, 3 to 5, where it goes through different types of plants in stages in order to revitalize the soil. And depending on where you are in those stages, using those types of plants to revitalize the soil will really help you. But one of the biggest takeaways that I had was actually in this section where she was like, similar plants that do the same kind of job look alike. They look and smell, or they act alike. So there are weeds or plants that we don't want in our gardens or in our areas that don't work for us, but there are edible or medicinal plants that look
like
the same or similar that actually we would want, that are beneficial, and all we have to do is replace the weeds with the ones we want, but that are the same kind of plant. So like, for example, depending on which stage you're in, of course. So like one of these plants that pops up everywhere that actually helps revitalize the soil is crabgrass, which is something most people don't want. They have learned that crabgrass is like an evil word, like we don't want it in our lawns. Don't get me started on lawns, that's a whole different thing. But crabgrass is one of those things that nature uses to revitalize the soil. It's actually really helpful. So what's a plant that looks and acts like crabgrass that would actually be beneficial? Lemongrass. Lemongrass is great for all kinds of things. Put lemongrass in the soil there. Get rid of the crabgrass, have the lemongrass, you get the same benefit and a plant that you actually want. Or ragweed. Ragweed is something that we don't really have any use for, and it's really annoying, but it's really helpful for soil revitalization in a lot of different ways. What's something that's similar to ragweed that we can use, that we love? Amaranth. Plant amaranth in an area where a similar plant is growing. Not only will it continue to help the process, but these are plants that already are showing they can live and thrive there. Like, these are natural native plants. So maybe amaranth isn't native to the field, but the same type of plant is native there and will succeed there. And just taking these, like, this replacement plant idea, like, that is just sticking in my brain. And she talked a long time about that, so I won't go any further. But like the replacement plant idea, Like, really, it was like the same type of plant looks and acts the same. So just find the thing that looks and acts the same and use it. It's great. What was one of your biggest takeaways? You can review from my notes.
Probably nature does not like to be naked.
Yeah.
Like, nature is not always super aesthetically pleasing. Like, it's just nature. And if you let it do its thing, you're more I think just in general, overall, if you're just more open-minded and not creating a bunch of stupid rules for yourself where something has to be a certain way in order for you to be happy with it, or in order for it to work the way that you want something to work, nature laughs in your face.
Yeah, that's where your garden fails. And it's funny, like, she used the forest as an example of, like, a thriving ecosystem that we're going to model our gardens after.
Like a forest, yeah.
But this was about gardening, and about successful gardening and growing a lot of food in short periods of time and revitalizing the soil in garden spaces. So, you know, it sounds like this is very disorganized, but there is a lot, like, everything she talked about was in order to get the garden to be successful and growing for you.
Yeah, sometimes even if the plant isn't edible, if you're planting something that attracts the kind of bugs that you want to be in the soil.
Or repels the ones you don't want on top of the soil.
Yeah, like bugs that will eat the bugs that you do not want.
Or eat the plants.
Or eat the plants that you don't want. Yeah.
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 And going off of what you said, about organizing and trying to make the garden be the way we want instead of like following nature's pattern. One of the things that I think I have to reshape in my own head is the way we typically organize our garden spaces is not natural. Like, we like to put all of our same type of plants together. Like, it makes sense to us. But if you go anywhere with a thriving natural ecosystem, whether it's plains or a meadow or a forest, there is no organization to that. There is no, oh, this type of plant is growing here, and this type of plant is growing next to over here all by itself, and then the trees are just all by themselves over here. It's not like that. They're interspersed. They're just, and it's not random. It's not that they just happen to be where the seeds fall. It's that they grow best mixed. Like, the plants thrive mixed, and it actually protects the plants from invasive bugs and species and stuff like that. Because if one type of plant, like our tomatoes are super prone to get attacked by bugs that we don't like.
Grow them together.
Yeah, she was talking about don't grow them next to each other. Don't, because
they'll fail.
If one gets attacked or gets blight or disease or something, like if one fails, you have to be really worried about the rest of them getting affected by the same thing. But if you have them interspersed through your whole garden, one can get affected and the rest are just fine. And you have to, like, think about not organizing your garden the same way anymore. And some of us are a little familiar with this in the idea of, like, companion planting, but this is a whole new level of, like, okay, her garden looks amazing, of course, like, it has clear pathways, like, you can walk through it. She knows where things are, so there's still human organization to it. It's not just haphazard throwing the seeds out there, but where you're choosing to put things, I think, needs to be really different. And as I'm still, like, putting things in my garden this year, I think I'm gonna adjust my entire plan, because everything was in its nice little rows of tomatoes right here, corn right here, lettuce right here. We're done with that. We're not doing that anymore after this talk.
Yeah. She also gave us a lot of great methods for, you know, organic matter matters, so use it. And she gave us a lot of resources for how to get free things.
Yeah.
Like,
and layering
wood chips, for example, and
not bark. That's
not bark.
Different.
Wood chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different.
Did you guys know what, like, arborists and tree people and stuff that like cut down our branches and trees for us have to pay to get rid of their wood chips? So if you want them and they don't have to, and you offer to even just pay for the gas for them to come to you.
Once again, just show up with a cherry pie and say, do you want me to take that? And they'll say, absolutely.
It's like,
They
we don't have to pay
for
to
their
get rid of
dump
this?
fees.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And other materials, too. But wood chips is a big one, because that is a great organic matter for a lot of...
I didn't know that at all. I thought it was something that was just automatically part of their job. Like, they take care of it for them. Nope. They've got to do it themselves.
Yeah, or pay someone else to take them.
Someone else to do it. Jeez.
So, like... so many ways to like help us save money as homesteaders.
Yes.
It's great. So yeah, and I am definitely following Ann Briggs, Ann of all trades, all of her stuff now. She's got tons of educational videos. She's on YouTube as well. She's got things about business. She's got things about gardening, homesteading, skills stuff. She's got a lot of education, and she's building a school right now. It's like a physical building, brick and mortar school for this, which is just amazing and crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, so, and this is the gal I was like,
not bad for someone that knew nothing about homesteading and is the first generation.
Yeah, this is not ingrained. Like, she has learned all of this mostly through trial and a lot of error.
She's like me, just living in a cubicle and doing everything that she could when she wasn't working and it was failing. Because the things she did.
And she's an idea person.
Yeah.
She's a dreamer.
Yeah.
Like, she has ideas and she just like starts doing them.
Yes. And then she crushes her dreams.
Because she started doing them poorly, and like she's had like umpteen failed attempts and businesses and paths to get to the life she's in now.
But it's nice because when you go through that stuff, I feel like now in our society, it's like you need to do this once and you need to plan really, really, really hard for this one thing. And when it fails, it's like, my life's over. Whereas in homesteading, he's like, it's fine. We'll just change it up. You're a lot more real with yourself.
Yeah. For sure.
It was really nice, so.
She's so fun, too.
She is so fun. She makes it fun.
I got a picture with her, too. The post is up there. She's an amazing gal. I was surprised, like, so many people wanted to talk with her.
Yeah.
So many.
She was great about describing decision fatigue and just as many things as you can that you don't have to make a decision for, the better. She wears the same outfit every single day.
Yeah, she's got the clothing that works for her, and she doesn't have to decide what to wear. Like, she wears the same thing every day.
Every day. Yep. And so I feel like with the combined knowledge that we all acquired, that's going to be it's really helpful to just have those principles in mind when making decisions or lack thereof. Well,
like, I really got into the math of this that she talked about. She's like, so it is, scientists have studied and discovered or recorded that the human brain on average has the ability to make 43 decisions a day before decision fatigue sets in. Which up front, like when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's a lot more than I thought. That's a lot of decisions. Like, I don't think I make that many decisions a day. And then she started talking about what the decisions really are. Everything from what clothes to put on to what to make for breakfast, whether to eat for breakfast, do I brush my teeth this morning? These are all decisions. And when you start adding up all those little ones that you don't think you're making, but you are making every day, 43 runs out really fast. She's like, by 8 or 9 a.m., like, we're maxed out on decisions.
Especially on a homestead.
Yeah, it's like, so she talked a lot about, like, making her day as decision-free as possible. Like, getting things down to where she doesn't have to make choices because they're just
science
there.
And a routine.
And unfortunately, like, whether to do something or not is still a decision for us. Like, especially for people like me, ADHD makes everything a task.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is a task. Everything is a like, things that most of you don't think about, like having to take a shower or brush your teeth. It's like, that goes on a checklist of something I have to decide to do every day. Be like, so decision fatigue is very real, very prevalent, and comes up really fast. But it's like the math of that, of like how many decisions we make and how many we are really capable of making well.
Yeah, because we can't be productive 24 hours a day 100% of the time.
No.
We just can't. So
she talked about like optimizing your day, limiting your actual decisions. Like, there was a lot of good stuff there. And I really hope that I can implement some of that.
Yeah, for the longest time I thought if I were, and especially in the society we're taught, if you work hard enough, you'll get here. But I think it's more of making decisions to where you don't have to work as hard if you don't have
Working
to.
smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
And that's hard for homesteaders. Like, I hear a lot of other homesteaders.
We hear a lot of suck it up and just get it done.
Well, that, and I hear a lot of homesteaders, like, because, okay, everything we do on a homestead is very hands-on. It's very, you are there in person, putting eyes or hands on this thing. And that's important, and we can't lose that, especially with animals. Like, we need eyes and hands on our animals every day to make sure they're healthy and good. Like, we can't skip that part of the process. But within that, I talk about, like, I'm not going to add to my workload unnecessarily. I'm not going to do things, I'm not going to optimize things to the point where I don't need eyes or hands on my animals anymore, but I'm going to try to limit what the extra stuff I have to do or how often I have to do it, and set up systems that do take care of themselves so that I can spend less time on them and more on the important things, or honestly, time to rest. Because when you work for yourself on a homestead, with all of these things calling your names, you might not be able to go on long vacations ever. Like,
no,
really, but that doesn't mean you never need to or can take a break. Like, breaks are just as important for homesteaders as to everybody else. Like, we need to take the time to take care of ourselves. Like, we didn't decide to do homesteading because we're like, I just never want to take a break again. Like, we didn't decide to do that. We decided to have a better life, and that means creating a space that we can take the rest that we need.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen every day?
No.
But it's going to happen.
But is it not essential? It is.
Yeah.
It's very essential.
It really is. So,
lot of information that we learned, lots to reassess and apply.
What were the other two talks that you hit?
I went to...
After lunch.
After lunch, I went to... The exact title was just how to be prepared for everything. And true... forget exactly what it is. True prosperity. And how the less you give money to these billionaires, and how we went into everything. We went into how it has affected the mental health crisis we're having, especially with teenagers nowadays, and the drug and suicide epidemics we're having, and how it's not a drug problem, it is a self-worth problem. It is they've never done anything for themselves. They've never had to do, I'll tell you what, the Amish people talked about it too, where it does something completely different for a child when they go out to the barn with their papa and they open the fence up and they let 60 Jersey cows out into the pasture, and they make sure that all these Jersey cows are fed and okay and milked, rather than just playing on a Game Boy or sitting on a laptop or sitting, in a boring school, because even now the education system is failing. We've got people that are 8 years old now that can't read at a second grade level in some states. It's really, really bad.
That's a whole other talk right there.
That's a whole other talk right there. But yeah, it all just goes hand in hand with how people are no longer being self-sustainable, and they're relying on other people and the microwave dream, American dream, where everything needs to be convenient and fast and right now.
And that's hard for us as homesteaders too.
Yeah, and with the labor laws now with kids, they're not really doing as much for themselves to make their own money or know what it takes to make a living for yourself. Yeah. So even
they don't learn to value.
Yeah, like little things like
money.
This is their chicken coop, so they're in charge of the eggs, they're in charge of taking care of the chickens, they sell the eggs, then their parents give them the money. Just little things like that. And it makes so much sense when kids have that idea of what it takes to make a living for yourself, and the effort and work that it takes to maintain not just your life, but the life of another animal that relies on you. Just gives you an appreciation for life, and it gives you
and
hope
for the
and
work
dreams
that it takes to achieve things and the time it takes for things to come to fruition.
And it's no longer like a hopeless dream. It's like, oh, what else can I do? What else can I do? And trial and error, instead of this idea that you may never get it because you have to make this amount of money in this career field or whatever.
I know I personally struggle. In general, I'm a pretty patient person. And I don't need a lot of instant gratification. But on the homestead, I actually struggle with this, I think, more than anywhere else. Because I want to be in that full homestead life. I want that full homestead dream. And like when I hear like the thing that I'm doing to get there will take like 3 to 5 years to get to the point, I'm like, but I just want it now. Like I don't want to wait all that time to build it up. Like I just want it now. And it's hard. And it's one of those things that starts getting you pour money into things because you're like, well, I'm trading time for money. That's what we do. We're trading time for money to get there faster, or try to anyway. And it's like one of those pitfalls that we go into for sure.
Yeah.
This is a pretty long video. We need to get going, so I'll just quickly mention the other 2 talks that I went to. So, and I didn't even take notes on the next one because it was really, well, first of all, she handed out notes to us, so it made my job easy. And 2, it was more of it just wasn't a note-taking kind of class. It was about seed saving, which I really, really want to get better at. And I realized after the talk how woefully unprepared I am to do it and how much more goes into it than I realized. So, like, I was planning to save a lot of seeds this year, and I'm like, I might not be able to. I might have to just, like, work on that next year because of what I have in my garden right now. But, I really do want to stop being dependent on the seed packets that I buy every year and save my own seeds, be a resource for others and sell seeds. Like, and I got a good, there's a lot of learning left for me to do, but I got a good foothold in it from that class, which was really helpful. And then the last one I went to, I think was the most immediately beneficial class for me that I went to all weekend. And I actually missed the end of it because I had to run and volunteer and start tearing things down. So I have to contact this gal and see if she would be willing to share the info I missed with me. But it was all about sustainable feed alternatives. So things that you can grow on the farm to fully feed your livestock, whatever they are. Without ever buying food again. So like, it's one thing to graze ruminants, but other animals that don't graze to eat, like, what do you feed them, right? And how do you do that without having like a whole agricultural field and processing of that to make feed for them? And so, and she gave a whole list of things and talked about how to produce every single one of them. The things that grow fast, easily, in small spaces. You don't need tons of land to do it. Things that will actually feed your animals like complete diet, like, so they're not missing anything that they need. And these are things I can start doing now. And like some of them grow, like some of them are water-based and will grow in 10 days. Like, I mean, start now. Can have these things, and I'm going to as soon as we get home. Really, like, I'm ready to replace the feed that I buy. Not only to not pour money into it anymore, but to just have a really natural diet for the animals. Like, I try to feed my animals very healthily. Like, I mix my own poultry feed. I buy, like, a really good grade from a local mill of rabbit pellets to feed the rabbits and stuff. But these things, like, getting the right mix of these things together, easy to grow and do, like, there's a whole list here. Like, I will have to pick between the things of all the good options in order, like, within the next month or 2, I will be completely self-sustaining on the food front for these animals, which will be just amazing. I'm so excited to do that because right now for the rabbits alone, the rabbits cost about between $40 and $50 a week to feed, which I know doesn't sound like that much, but, and especially as I continue to grow in numbers, that number goes up because more of them eat more food. But, and they could definitely be eating more green stuff. Like, unfortunately, living in the desert, my pasture for pasturing rabbits is kind of dead and nutritionless right now. And hay, while a wonderful feed that I don't really use, is not a complete diet. It's not complete. They can't live on just hay. So I have to feed them pellets, but I know that they could be getting more and better, and that will improve the meat and the weight gain and the health of all of them. And I wouldn't have to spend a couple $100 a month to feed them anymore. And that's money I can either save or pour back into other areas of the homestead. So it's like, it's all good stuff. It's so good.
Yeah, that goes into the last talk I went to, which is just how to be prepared for everything. And it's just like we talked about the first days, like asking yourself the why question 5 times. It's like everything that you think you may not need to be prepared for. Okay, you've got a generator. Okay, now what happens when that generator loses power? What are you going to do for power? Okay, what's going to happen when, you need power for your phone and the phone batteries run out? Just the list. It goes on and on and on.
Like, really, just think about it. I know we can't do a raise of hands right now, but but how many of you think that the power is going to stay on? Yeah. Like, I don't mean like this year, but at some point, how many people think we're still going to have just accessible power?
It really gives you an idea, though, for what it is that you rely on, what it is that you need, and what things you can provide for yourself and things that you can live without.
Yep. Does that mean we all need to go off grid right now? Like, no.
No, but it means if a catastrophe happens, at least have a plan. Have an emergency binder with your emergency information. Have a physical copy of all of your insurance policies. Have all of your IDs. So
have a plan how you're going to stay warm, how you're going to stay cool.
Have
like
a
how
plan
you're going to keep food if you have no refrigeration.
Have a plan for where you're going to meet if you lose contact with somebody. Like, have somebody that you can go to out of state if a natural disaster happens in your area. You know?
And, like, the idea is not to be, like, conspiracy theorists or to panic and everybody, like, become, like, go live in a bunker right now. Like, obviously that's not me. And I love my refrigerator. Like,
we got 2 and a big old freezer. But it does give you an idea, though, of, like, just how much it is that we rely on technology and other things to keep our lives going. And how to manage emergencies for when you don't have those things.
And it's that idea of, really, it's better to be safe than sorry. It's not that we think all of these things are suddenly just going to happen right now.
Yeah, we don't think the world is plotting for a nuclear event.
We don't really think that in the next couple months the world's going to end. Like the idea is, have a plan. If something goes wrong, you won't be caught off guard.
Mm-hmm. And you will know what to do.
And you will be safe. Your family will be cared for. You don't have to live in fear. The idea is to stop living in fear.
Yes.
Like, we're not trying to create fear. We're trying to
I feel like nowadays people treat you like you're crazy when you're not as afraid of the world as they think you should be.
Oh. Or if you're afraid of the world at all. Like, the world's just going to take care of us.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of naivety on both sides.
Yeah.
But,
thinking for yourself, being prepared, and making decisions based on what you need, not what other people are doing. Yeah.
And something you said, I can't remember what you said now, but it reminded me of something that Anne Briggs said as well. Just making sure that things are working for you. Yep. She said, Anne Briggs, one of the things that she does when she starts something is she puts a timer or an alarm in her phone for every 3 months.
And says it's still working.
It's the, is this worth it timer? Is this working timer? It's like, for each project that she has, she checks in every 3 months, is this still working for me? And if it's not, she gets rid of it. It's a check-in, like whether it's animals or a gardening thing or a business or whatever it is. Every 3 months, check in, is it still working for me? Even if it was before, like, is it still working? Yes, keep it. No, throw it. Sell the animals. Get rid of it. Like, don't keep pouring into it if it's not working for you.
Even if you love the animals, it is better for that animal, for them to be somewhere where they're doing something for somebody that needs them. So,
because we all love our animals.
We all love our animals.
All love our animals.
Even the ones that we have to butcher. Even the ones we have to slaughter.
This is a whole side story we need to finish here, but like, I had a rabbit last year that I bought specially. Like, technically, she was a gene-flawed rabbit, but she was to be a breeder for meat, so I didn't care about that, and I thought her gene flaw coloring was the cutest ever. And she grew so big, and she was beautiful, and she had this great coloring, this rare gene flaw, and I just loved her so much, and I bred her, and she couldn't keep babies alive. She sucked as a mother. She was not a natural mother. I bred her again, same thing. She wouldn't keep the babies alive. She wouldn't care for them. And I was like, I raised this one, like, so friendly, and, like, I loved this rabbit. Like, I don't usually get close to all my breeders, but I loved this rabbit. And she had a cutesy name. She was Waffles. It was like, but this is a working farm, and she had a job to do, and she wasn't doing it. So, like, I didn't just kill her. Like, you know, that would have been an option, you know. But I sold her as a pet to somebody. And, you know, that worked out great for them. But I had to be willing to part with her. Otherwise, I'd be pouring money into a rabbit that was useless to me as a farmer. It's like, you have to be willing to say, like, okay, this isn't working, and let it go. Yeah. So, you know, she was really cute. She was really cute.
I know.
So, okay, we have to get on the road. The Modern Homesteading Conference was amazing. I'm not sure if it's up yet. I did make a video about day 1. I think it was actually ended up being shorter than this one. But we didn't have good signal for a live stream yesterday or the day before when we made that video. So we pre-recorded it, and it's being uploaded to YouTube right now. When it finishes its whole approval process and everything, I'll throw it up, and you can watch that as well and hear what we learned about in day 1. But overall, it was amazing, and we're already talking about the possibility of coming back next year because which tickets are already on sale for next year. The early bird pricing is apparently
$1 less than what I paid for mine.
Yeah, which we paid a discounted price anyway because we bought our tickets secondhand from someone who couldn't go. Normally, the tickets are $149 for general admission.
You're getting yours refunded though.
Yes, because I volunteered, which is super cool.
So might be volunteers next year.
Yeah, but the early bird pricing is only $99. Which is already a significant discount. But the early bird pricing for next year's conference at the end of next June only lasts through July 8th. So, like, a week from now.
Yeah.
So if you are at all interested in hitting this next year and you want the early bird pricing, like, you have to get the early bird pricing now.
Highly recommend booking a campground a year ahead, too.
Yes. Well, if we booked further ahead, we would have had closer options. But
it was still pretty close.
It was still great.
Pretty good place. I liked that we had the whole place for ourselves and had a little tree stand.
Yeah, that was fun.
Could venture to. Alrighty.
All right, we will see y'all back in Middleton.